We are live for day one of nuclear NFL free agency coverage here at Blue Chip Scouting. And I got added to the vaccine waiting list while I went live, so sorry about that. We got some new faces here. We've got Nick Price, who just joined us. We've got Austin, who's been here. Mike's unfortunately been here a while too. And we've got Jared, who's new to the videos. How's everyone doing today after a crazy day?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
I mean, the Eagles did nothing, so.
Hey,
I'm
your team doing
everyone else do crazy things.
Somebody's team doing nothing is not necessarily the worst thing. I mean, we were talking about beforehand. Our teams, Austin's a Cowboys fan. They don't sign anybody. Your Eagles didn't sign anybody today. I'm a Browns fan. I'm used to like overpaying for Carlos Dansby and Dante Whitner and being excited. So it's not necessarily the end of the world if your team doesn't make any big.
Although Jacoby Brissett has been linked to the Eagles.
I mean, that's
something.
You wouldn't have to really change your game plan.
No,
if Hurts went out.
I think he'd be better than Hurts, but I'd start him over Hurts. But
I don't know.
I wouldn't have drafted Hurts in the first place. So,
I have a sheet of as many of the signings as I can. I'm missing some that were more recent, so we'll just talk about those to kick things off here first that I know are not on the sheet. So, and they're bigger ones. So we'll start with the Jets have had a really good day. Joe Douglas proven again that he should have been a GM a long time ago. Carl Lawson, they bring over from the Bengals on a deal that's 3 years, $47 million, 30 million guaranteed. What do we all think about that deal? I personally love it a lot for a team that needs edge help.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and right next to Quinn Williams, it's going to help Quinn Williams too, because for forever he was by himself there on that line, and now he finally has a little bit of help.
Leonard Floyd gets like $5 million more a year, so yeah, absolutely.
So now with the Jets, you got Marcus May on the back end, Ashton Davis, who is developing into a really solid player, and now Quinn Williams and Carl Lawson on that front. That's starting to look like a good defense in the making. Not right now, but in the making.
Oh yeah, and that's what the Jets are looking for. Is they don't need to win now; they need to win. They're looking at 2-3 years ahead, obviously, because you don't even have a quarterback figured out there yet. So, no, like you talked about, Ashton Davis. I'm glad you brought him up, and Marcus May. You franchise tagged. You've got a great safety tandem. Now you've got a good tandem on your front seven. You just got to figure out what you're going to do with C.J. Mosley, who was talked about in trades today. Another deal that's but we don't really have to talk about Philip Lindsay. One I will say that I'm kind of shocked at is Jameis Winston staying in New Orleans. I talked about wanting to have him yesterday in Washington, but I like, and you also brought up too, Mike, the Rappaport tweet where Sean Payton says he still wants Jameis to compete for the starting job. So you pay Taysom Hill $160 million in monopoly money, and then you have Jameis Winston for one more year for $12 million. Where do we all stand on that then?
The math doesn't make any sense. I'm very confused. Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton need to be locked in a room for crimes against the salary cap.
You can't convince me the cap exists. I'm sorry.
They're pulling money out of their ass. They're pulling it out of their ass.
We need to stop hyping up Taysom Hill. That's what we need to do. We need to stop the hype for Taysom Hill. It's getting annoying. It's getting very annoying.
But Jared, he's fun.
I was laughing
he's a fun, flat player, but he is overhyped.
And bad.
Bad.
And bad. They'll pay bad players.
The Dolphins signed the second or who signed the tight end fullback today?
The Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins. Dolphins signed the Ethan Carter for 3 years, and he was the second tight end fullback to be signed this free agency period because the first one was Taysom Hill. So, and then there's nothing else that's really happened since I don't have anybody on the sheet, so we'll just work our way down. Marcus Golden today, as I missed and Austin elegantly pointed out, Marcus Golden makes Arizona have another rotational pass rusher, getting him for 2 years, $9 million. I like Marcus Golden. He got that really big contract when he went to the Giants, and Didn't really play that well. Got cut. Ended back up in the desert. Anybody not like that signing for Arizona?
Love the signing for one reason. When I wrote up about the Cardinals article for Franchise Blueprint, at the time, Spot was still estimating his yearly annual average at like 13 million.
Yeah,
so
I remember talking about that.
4.5 is great. I don't know what that means about Hassan Reddick, whether or not he'll be able to come back. I would rather have Hassan Reddick, but I have heard nothing about him.
Hassan Reddick won't come back, I don't think. When they've got J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, and now re-signed Marcus Golden, I don't think they have the money for Reddick to bring him back, which they didn't use him well for the first 4 years anyway. So
it was just that one game against the Giants. It kind of
and that's the Giants' offensive line and Daniel Jones, who can't feel pressure to save his life.
Well, at least we have that in common, Austin. We can all make fun of the Giants.
Speaking of teams to make fun of, the Baltimore Ravens did sign Kevin Zeitler before free agency started because he was cut by the Giants in a cap-saving move, which they've been missing Marshall Yonda. I think you would agree, Nick. And I think Zeitler, I was really upset we lost him in the Odell trade as a Browns fan a couple years ago. Nick, Jared, what do you two guys think of the Zeitler move?
Go ahead, Nick.
I think it's good for Baltimore. You know, they drafted a pair of guys last year in Ben Bredesen and Tyree Phillips, and they really didn't make too big of an impact. So I think to get some like veteran stability there, at guard is good. And it kind of gives them some more flexibility during the draft too. I mean, they could get someone like Creed Humphrey or Josh Myers, or they could kick Bozeman over to center and draft another guard potentially, or just put Powers there and not draft a lineman at all. So their options are kind of broad.
I like the signing too. I think he can bring. He's a really good guard. I think he adds good protection for Lamar Jackson, which is something he needs. And especially when you're about to potentially pay Lamar Jackson a $200 million contract, which seems likely in the future. You also have to think about there needs to be more push up front in the run game. And we didn't see a lot of push. We didn't see a lot of big plays on the ground last season up until probably later on in the year. So now that they have this piece, it's good for the Ravens, and it gives them an opportunity to have more options in the first round. They could definitely go best player available. I expect them to go best player available in the first round. And also some news from Josina Anderson. She said, my understanding, I mean, I'm not sure if this is really news. It could be, but my understanding is the Browns are keeping an eye on cornerback Shaquille Griffin and his market. Everything is about the price, teams, players, ...
Man. We'll get to the Browns later with what they did, but if they can get Griffin in there as a veteran presence with all the youngins, I would be over the moon.
And I saw Andrew's face light up. He was like, ooh la la.
Yeah, and Jared, since you like talking about offensive linemen so much, talking about Zeitler, your Panthers today signed a guard and a tackle. Do you want to talk about Cam Erner and Pat Eiflin?
Yeah. Here's the thing with these two signings. The contracts for the average fan, they may look expensive, but in reality, they're not really that expensive. The Panthers still have plenty of cap space available, $31 million in cap space currently, and I think they only lost a few million from those two contracts alone. From what I saw, the Cam Irving contract it was spread around a little bit to where the Panthers could have an out next year, next offseason, if they don't like what they saw or what they see with Irving this season. With Irving, you're getting competition and depth. With Pat Elfin, you're getting competition and depth. That's what you're getting with those two offensive linemen. Could they be starters? Absolutely. Most definitely. But more than likely, they'll be good depth pieces for Carolina, versatile depth pieces, and competition at just in general, left tackle, left guard, and right guard, because both players have had experience at both positions. So I'm starting to become a fan of the signing, just because it can add depth, and the Panthers can still go after other guys here in free agency, or they can go after starters in the draft.
Well, and I think too, if you're the Panthers and a fan of them, Jared, as you are, IPhone's not a bad guard. Cam Irving was doo-doo in Cleveland, and he got better in Kansas City. I think he was started there when they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So he's very serviceable, and like you talked about in the chat today with Greg Little too, nice little competition for him there too. And the nice part is too, you have Christian McCaffrey, who's a good enough running back that hides a lot of your offensive line issues. And if you guys get a Trey Lance or a Deshaun Watson, I think with that offensive line, you and I are always going back and forth about Mac Jones. I really think you do need a mobile quarterback if this is what your offensive line is going to look like more so too. Moving on down though, Cleveland Browns, I won't go too long on this personally, but John Johnson signed from the Rams, 3 years, $37.5 million, or $37.75 million, excuse me. I think it was Schefter tweeted out that some teams had him as the top safety even before Marcus May got taken off the market. So I'm very excited to have somebody alongside Grant Delpit and get that defensive back group, which, again, something we talked about yesterday. Anybody else want to add anything on John Johnson?
Thought he was going to go to the Eagles. Thought he was going to go to the Eagles. Just because it would be such an Eagles move, because they did the same thing a couple years ago with Rodney McLeod getting the top safety from a team like the Rams. Thought would have been a good fit. The Eagles definitely didn't at any point really replace Malcolm Jenkins. Thought that Jalen Mills was going to be that, and shocker, he wasn't. So having John Johnson in the building would have been great. Love it for Cleveland, hate it for Philly. Yeah.
Austin, I've been really waiting to get some breakdown on this. We don't have any money or years on the deal. The Jake McQuaid signing, Mr. Long Snapper for your Cowboys.
Oh, man.
And moving on. Denver Broncos got Shelby Harris brought back, and then they also got Ronald Darby. Two pretty good, I would say, decent deals. Less than $10 million a year for Shelby, and then Ronald Darby right at $10 million a year. It averages out to. Anybody else like that move? I made Austin completely turn his camera off.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, does anybody like the Ronald Darby signing?
I don't.
On that?
No.
I'm kind of a fan because Darby he showed promise in Washington, and I know Matt Valvadinos, he likes him a lot. And he mentioned earlier today when talking to I think a fan in one of my mentions, and he was like, Darby has injury history. We all know that, but he also played for Jim Schwartz, and we all know what Jim Schwartz is like as a defensive coordinator. So, and Mike knows this all too well. I think Darby can be a good player, a really good player, and he showed great flashes of that with Washington last season, and he ended up being a good piece for them when he was healthy. I think he can provide good play for the Denver Broncos in that secondary, which definitely needs it, especially if somehow, some way, Von Miller ends up walking in free agency and not coming back with the Denver Broncos. That's certainly a possibility.
Didn't really like him as much as some do with Washington. So I don't know where the $10 million a year from. Like, if he was fresh off of his time with the Bills, then this would have made sense. But I mean, that was a long time ago.
I think the money for Darby, I think teams see his special. They saw what he could do in Buffalo. They saw the flashes, even with the injuries, and I think Denver saw that, and George Patton saw that. He was like, this is something we could take a chance on. Yes, it's going to cost a lot. He's costing a lot of money, but Darby can be a good player when he stays healthy, and that's the only question: can he stay healthy? Let's hope he can, and let's hope he can be a very good piece for the Denver Broncos secondary.
I don't know if Patton being new, and this I wish Fortis was here for it. I don't know if Patton has any analytics history. I mean, being with Spielman, I probably doubt it. But Darby was a PFF darling, and he was a top 15 corner from them, which could mean he was really good or he was really bad. It's hard to say sometimes. Going on from Denver, though, we have – I scrolled down too far. The Detroit Lions, really quickly, right when free agency started, locked up their edge rusher Romeo Okwara. 3 years, $39 million. I like that deal a lot for them, coming off a career with 10 sacks and everything. He gets paid. Green Bay, and there's the tweet going around. I don't know how legit it is, talking about AJ Green maybe. I think that would be interesting, but again, nothing really major to talk on at this point. And then Houston signed 6 guys for I think I did the math, 20-some million.
Just a bunch of dudes
really worth talking about.
Literally a bunch of Jags. Just a bunch of Jags. And I don't mean Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean just a guy.
Yeah, and
depth,
go ahead.
But why? The only guy that's even solid, even close to solid on this list of signings is Malik Collins. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was
Mark
going
Ingram.
to was
Taylor?
as a Cowboys fan.
They also signed Mark Ingram for some reason a couple days ago.
Yeah, I didn't include that because that was beforehand.
But still, it's like
you had Duke Johnson. You have David Johnson.
You got enough old running backs on that team yet, Houston?
Yeah, I just don't know what they're going to do with him.
Isn't Mark Ingram 33 now?
32, I want to say.
God, I
think he'll be 32 this year.
Yeah, this isn't 2007. You can't pay. Didn't they sign him to a multi-year contract or something too?
I think it was 2 year. The year he won the Heisman was the last time I was at a Florida game.
I will say this: please get Deshaun Watson out of Houston for the love of God.
Yeah,
maybe Carolina.
I love him in Carolina, but I'm hesitant because we don't have draft capital. Honestly,
having a top 10 pick certainly helps. I think them brewing on the fact that they don't have the 3rd pick is really upsetting them more than anything. Moving on down, Indianapolis Colts and the infamous Chris Ballard way, not spending any money again. But Lord knows he'll draft an all-pro in the 5th round, which will make him look like a genius after the fact. Jacksonville Jaguars and the angry Tony Khans of the world made several signings. Roy Robertson Harris, 3 years, $24 million. Jamal Agnew, which is the mind boggler of the day, I would say. 3 years, $21 million as a special teams guy.
Why?
Yeah, I don't get it either. And then Carlos Hyde has the San Francisco ties to their new GM, and his name's Balk, if I remember right.
Balky.
That was close. And then Rashawn Jenkins, Philip Dorsett were both announced as well. No money officially attached that I had seen for either of those deals. Anybody like any of those for Jacksonville?
I like the Rashawn Jenkins one. He played really well for the Chargers last year. He's from Miami, so we'd be going back to his home state. Kind of a nice, storyline there. I do not, under any circumstances, condone paying a kick returner $7 million a year because that's just not very good business. The Carlos Hyde one, great. Urban coached him. Balky drafted him. He's 30. He's going to be a 3rd string running back.
He's 300 years old, I was saying.
Yeah. Don't understand that one whatsoever. Just a very bizarre signing. But yeah, the best thing that happened with the Jaguars today was Tony Khan, just randomly chewing out this doofus, for lack of a better word, that decided he wanted to try to just hoard followers by saying that there was a DJ Chark for an Orlando Brown trade. And then when Tony Khan called him an idiot for it, he decided to do the smart thing and double down on it. And
tag him.
And tag him.
Kudos to him on that part.
Listen, I don't know what AEW's next event is, but I need Tony Khan versus that dumbass.
I think it's
but no, this guy started the day with 300 followers, got lucky with the Jonnu Smith signing, and then duped 1,700 people into following him today with this Chark and Brown trade that's not happening.
It's kind of a flex, if we're being honest. It's a very stupid flex, but it's a flex nonetheless.
True. Very true.
Moving on to if you're a fan of 31 other teams other than the Chiefs, you were upset today. Joe Thuney gets 5 years, $80 million to protect Pat Mahomes, make holes for Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Darrell Williams or Darren Williams or whoever they can bring off the couch somewhere for Andy Reid to turn him into a playoff darling. I think we can all universally agree this was one of the best signings of the day.
This is the most surprising, in my opinion, in terms of...
I was shocked when I saw where it was, too.
I had heard Bengals, I had read Bengals, I had read Jets. I think I had seen the Falcons connected to him because they have really weak guard play because they kept drafting bad guards. So those three would have made sense, but I guess when Brett Veach is able to create money out of thin air, I believe it came down to restructuring Mahomes' mega deal to free up some extra money. You know who loves this deal more than any of us will? Quentin Nelson's agent, because next year he becomes eligible for an extension, and good luck topping Quentin Nelson's major extension. He's going to get offensive tackle money to be a left guard. We're looking at $22 million, honestly.
I was going to say Quentin Nelson's going to get $100 million in his contract.
As a guard. Let's think about that.
Quentin Nelson is going to be the highest paid guard in NFL history. That is without a
Well, I
doubt.
think Tooney's that now.
He is that now, but Nelson probably will blow it out of the water.
Yeah,
More
like
likely.
we're resetting the offensive line market with this because I think Laramie Tunsil is the highest paid offensive tackle at $21 a year, and Nelson could get that as a guard.
This goes to show how valuable Quentin Nelson is, how greatly valued he is on that offensive line. He is a type of player on that front that can make any offensive line better with just his presence up front. That's how good Nelson is. And my thoughts on Thuney, the losing Schwartz, losing Fisher, or having to release them hurt Kansas City, but they had to make the moves because they were pretty strict. They were pretty stricken with in terms of cap space then. But bringing in a great, amazing player like Joe Thuney, that's excellent for Kansas City. That gives you good protection up front, especially in the interior. But again, I think Kansas City number one priority should be to protect Patrick Mahomes, get him protection, and I think that starts probably once the draft rolls around with the 31st pick. Who could it be? More than likely an offensive tackle, but they could also take one in round 2. It's a great offensive tackle class, top to bottom. You can go any which way. So the Chiefs, this was a great move by the Chiefs. I think they were one of the winners for today, just simply off that move. And, I think it came down to the Chiefs and the Patriots trying to re-sign him to a big deal, but I don't think the Patriots were willing to match what the Chiefs were offering Thuney. So, and Andrew, I think you definitely want to talk about the Chiefs, or not the Chiefs, the Patriots here. I think they're a team that definitely needs to be talked about right now because they spent the bank today.
Oh yeah, while we were live here, they jumped over $220 million they spent today, and we're going to get to them. But I'm going in alphabetical order, and I'm running things, so we're going to go to Hunter Thompson.
I'm eager, man.
I was going to
Hunter Thompson's favorite signing of the day, and I think and agree with him, the best one so far. Lindsley going to the Chargers to create holes for Austin Eckler and protect Justin Herbert. 5 years, $62.5 million. I don't think that's bad, considering after what you saw Thuney got as an interior offensive lineman. I think that's a pretty good deal for him coming off an all-pro season. They also added Michael Davis, a corner, and then they also got, later in the night, Matt Feeler. I'm not good with
Filer.
all the names. I apologize. Filer. That's what I figured. From Pittsburgh, 3 years, $21 million. So they definitely are realizing that they need to do the opposite of what Cincinnati did, and they need to protect their quarterback. Anybody else? Absolutely.
I love the two offensive line moves for the Chargers. I have a couple of friends that are diehard Chargers fans, and I felt bad for them having to watch guys like Forrest Lamp and those two project tackles, Pipkins and Tevy, who I believe are both free agents, which is good. They can finally move on from them. Have to protect Phillip Rivers and then Justin Herbert this year. Love the move for Lindsley. It replaces the Pouncey brother that they had. I don't remember which Pouncey they had. I believe it was Mike Pouncey. Could be wrong.
Mike Pouncey.
Yeah.
I think he retired. If not, he's a free agent. So again, good.
Yeah, they
good
went out together, the Pouncey brothers.
Yeah, and then in terms of Filer, he can play guard. He can play tackle. It doesn't take away from your options in the draft either, because if you want Filer to play guard and get rid of and replace what Forrest Lamp was giving you, then you can still turn around in the draft and get a Christian Darrisaw, get a Rashawn Slater, whatever your style may be. And I think he was only at like $7 million a year, which for a starting offensive lineman is really good. I don't know. I love it.
I know they're signing too, because I skipped over the Raiders because I had to keep Jared in line. Yannick Ngakoue signed his 2-year deal for $26 million. I personally, I think on paper it's one of those. On paper it looks great, but I think long term, like for the 2 years you're going to have him, he's going to be on his
fourth team in 7 months. Someone tweeted that at me today.
Insane. Like that's Josh Gordon levels of crazy. Anybody else concerned about this? Think it's great signing?
I think it's good value. I mean, he got paid the same that the Patriots paid Nelson Aguilar, so
that is
desperately need edge help. Cleveland Farrell's not panned out to this point, although I still think that he has a chance to. But that's just me. I'm optimistic as hell. Other than that,
7.5 career sacks.
At nothing else, you have Cleveland Farrell, who will hopefully pull his head out of his ass and be able to be productive. I hope. You have Max Crosby, who they found in like round 5 from Eastern Michigan, who's actually turned out to be far better than Farrell anyways. And then you have Yannick Ngakoue. So you have those two, and then, hey, maybe Farrell just is a rotational rusher. That's great. Just don't draft him at 4 overall.
And moving, Oakland is or Las Vegas. I guess we're moving across the freeway here. We're going to go back over to Los Angeles because we skipped up the alphabetical order. The Rams brought back Leonard Floyd with their horrible cap situation. They found a way to pay him $64 million. I'm not a big Leonard Floyd fan, and paying him $64 million, I'm not that excited about.
Find me someone who is.
I mean, apparently Les Snead.
I don't understand the Rams and the money they shell out.
Yeah.
Hey, at least they're not making a first-round pick on.
I was going to say, I think my kids will finally have been born and be midway through grade school by the time they pick.
Dante and I were breaking it down how, and I absolutely love this. It was my favorite fun fact from that show where I had like 1,800 of them, was that my 4-year-old son has not been alive for a Rams first-round pick.
Shout out to Elijah.
Right, exactly. Thank you. You got the right kid. Man, Mike's really.
I watched the
favorite part here. Vikings signed Stephen Weatherly. We can let Climbing the Pocket, who will be live in 1 minute with Tyler Forness, talk about that.
Don't give them free publicity. No, we love it.
What we got here? Yeah, I'm sure we'll get our money back. Now, I put in here, this is not going to be in alphabetical order because the title of the team is the Pissed Off Bill Belichick's. As I talked about, they spent $220 million because they just re-signed Wise, and then Matt Judon forked out $56 million. Jonnu Smith, $50 million. Jalen Mills, $24 million. Godchow, $16 million. Kendrick Bourne, $22.5 million. They paid Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar a combined $48.5 million, which is just not.
We also just got numbers on the Dietrich Wise deal. 4 years, $30 million for Dietrich Wise.
Jared, I don't know if you can see me, but I'm going to add you to the stream, and if you're dancing, you're going to be dancing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. So you signed Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar for, what was it, $48 million total between the two contracts, right? Yeah. You could have just signed Corey Davis for that and gotten a better receiver than both of them put together. I joked earlier that when Nelson Aguilar drops a crucial catch late in a game, that Bill Belichick's going to give him the old Harrison Ford Air Force One treatment and just get off my plane and just boot him on out of there. As an Eagles fan, I never liked Aguilar from the moment he was drafted. Didn't think it was a great pick then. Thought it was hilarious to try to keep making him work, and it didn't. He did okay in Vegas, and I guess he gets $13 million a year for having a decent season in Las Vegas. Oh boy, I hate these were NBA contract level bads. Like these were bad. These were bad.
Yeah, Han Solo has to throw Mark Wahlberg off the plane.
Here's the thing.
Air Force One.
I'm back, of course. I had speaker issues. I couldn't hear you guys, so I'm back. But I want to get my opinion on this. For what the Patriots had at wide receiver last year, Bourne and Aguilar are better receivers than they had last year, in my opinion.
I wouldn't argue with that. When you have Bird as your wide receiver one,
Edelman and Myers as your top two receivers. Edelman was hurt for most of the year. Harry, can he develop? Can he continue to develop? I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. But I think Aguilar and Bourne, they're good players. Should they have gotten the contracts? That's debatable. It's, I think it could have been lower, but Bill Belichick is going for heads this season. He's paying.
Not to cut you off, Kyle Van Noy tweeted at 9:54 3 sets of wide-eyed emojis. So,
also Jeremy Fowler tweeted that the Ravens may or may not be interested in not Kyle Van Noy, but Hassan Reddick. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Okay, I think Van Noy's going to go to the Patriots.
I feel like Van Noy's going to be a Giant.
Man, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I don't think the Patriots are done signing receivers. I think they're going to sign at least one more. And it could be crazy.
I heard today from my guy that Samuel's not going to happen. And they're pretty much done on the receiver market end of things. Now, that being said, I could probably see him going whoever's there at 15, or maybe even pulling a Belichick classic move. And isn't Fornes supposed to be doing a live show?
He just said something in the comments. So
I know. I maybe trade back to like 20-ish something, whatever. Get somebody like a Rashad Bateman or a Kadarius Toney. I think a Bateman would complement Bourne and Aguilar really, really well. But then again, that would be what for mock drafts are for. Going on from the pissed off Bill Belichick, which Jared, you missed. That's their team name this year. Going on to the New Orleans Saints, they signed Jameis Winston, like we talked about earlier. James Hurst, guard, 3 years, $9 million. A lot of guards got signed today. So I guess if you're a Vikings fan, you should know you don't have to draft him. You can just sign him and pay him more money. New York Giants, Dave Gettleman and
all players are guards. All players are guards. Shout out to Dante Collinelli. We're missing his funniness tonight.
We're missing his sunglasses is what we're missing. Giants signed Austin Johnson. Devontae Booker is like a really bad case of hemorrhoids. They just don't go away.
I swear he's already like 29, because wasn't he like 24 when they drafted him?
Something like that.
He's only 29, I'll be shocked, because he's been around for a hot minute. Moving on, though, to the Jets, who Connor Rogers put out a fantastic tweet a little bit ago.
28. Devontae Booker is 28.
God. Oh, he was only 2016. That's why.
Wow. Okay. that really threw me through a loop there. The Jets signed premium defender Jared Davis, as Ian Rappaport so elegantly explained.
That was the dumbest thing I saw.
But I also like that I have this. I might have this in the wrong place. Did they get Henry Anderson back?
No, Henry Anderson went to the Patriots.
Yeah.
See, I'm an idiot. So yeah, I had that in the wrong spot here. And then the other big one, obviously, like we talked about, Corey Davis, only 3 years for $37.5 million. I don't think it's bad because I think obviously he was like Devontae Parker, took 5 years to really develop into what they drafted him to be out of Kalamazoo in Western Michigan. Anybody think they paid too much for Corey Davis? Anybody love it? Anybody hate it? I personally love it opposite Mims.
I love it. I truly love it. I think that Davis can become a true number one wide receiver with the Jets, with Denzel Mims opposite. I think whoever becomes the next quarterback for the New York Jets, whether that's Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, or maybe Trey Lance, maybe, who knows, but whoever's going to be the new starter in New York for the Jets, they're going to have a good group of wide receivers with Corey Davis and Denzel Mims for sure.
2007, was he 2017 or was he 2008? What draft was he?
17.
But 2017 wide receiver 1. So I'm glad the brand is paying off today.
I wasn't doing this to that point, but I'm pretty sure I liked Mike Williams better than him.
I've been doing this since 2014, Austin.
I hope his 2020 wasn't a fluke. I don't think it was, but we'll see.
What were the other receivers in that class? I feel like there's
wide receiver 1.
John Ross was another one.
John Ross.
Mike Williams, John Ross,
Corey Davis, all win in the top 10.
John Ross didn't even wear Adidas to win.
It was Corey Davis, Mike Williams, and John Ross. Yeah.
Speaking of now transitioning, your Eagles didn't sign anybody.
No, they re-signed Brandon Graham. It doesn't mean anything though.
Exactly. He was already
Curtis
on the team.
Samuel was in that class. I know he moved on, but Curtis Samuel was in that class as well.
Okay. What do you think of that, Nick?
That was a good group of wide receivers in that draft class. Looking back
and
at it
Juju
right now.
and Cooper Kupp. That wasn't good.
And Zay Jones. Can't forget Zay Jones.
Hey, John. Yes, sir.
Who's Kevin talking about in the comments? Anybody? He says, "What do y'all think about Nick? Like Nick Price? I think Nick Price is very nice, but
Thank you. I appreciate
what
that.
Nick are we talking about? Kevin,
Kevin, would you like to elaborate? Because then I can actually go in on it.
We did sign Nick Price, though.
We did acquire
That's
Nick
true.
Price. No compensation needed.
Bud Dupree, 5 years, $82.5 million.
All right, Liam.
Nick Gurley. Oh my God!
Bud Dupree's contract just came out.
What do we got?
5 year, $82.5 million.
Oh no!
What?
It's a thick contract.
5 years, $82.5 million.
Wow. Yikes.
I'm so angry at this point for what just happened here. Moving on here, speaking of Fort Worth Steeler, Bud Dupree, the Steelers themselves signed Cam Sutton for 2 years, $9 million, bringing him back, which he was not talked about, but as somebody who's forced to watch a lot of Steeler football, Cam Sutton's not bad. He was very nice opposite Davis. Rounding out here, Seattle. Did Seattle sign anybody? I don't have anybody under them. Thank you, Mike. And did Seattle sign anybody that I missed? They're another team that's in cap hell somehow because they make themselves that way.
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay, so then we'll move on. Tampa Bay. You want to talk about teams that won the day? They didn't even have to do anything fancy or crazy. They just brought back Shaq Barrett and Rob Gronkowski for another run that you start out the offseason where you're worried about all these holds, and Bruce Arians, the greatest coach to ever walk the face of the planet, says, I'm not letting these guys leave, and he didn't let them walk.
Yeah, I saw someone compare it to the Rams, especially after John Johnson got swept up. But yeah, there's a very big difference between guys not wanting to go back for a first round exit and guys wanting to run it back because they just won a Super Bowl. They'll be willing to take more of a discount in order to stay on the team. I think Shaq Barrett. Austin, do you have the Shaq Barrett numbers?
Yes, I do. 4 years, $72 million.
That he got less than Bud Dupree, I think. 4 years as well for Dupree, right? Or is he 5?
Dupree was 5. I think that he got more average, but
regardless, Shaq Barrett over Bud Dupree. What do we got?
Breaking news.
Trey Hendrickson has signed with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Should have just re-signed Carl Lawson.
I wanted Hendrickson in Cleveland personally, but
could I speak on the Tampa Bay stuff real quick?
Go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to get that in.
Yeah, my life is going to be a living hell for the next season.
Oh yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah,
no division titles for you, no nothing.
Any chance the Panthers have at even touching the NFC South? Gone. Probably the next couple of years, at least.
Look at Fourness
please.
Jumping in, acting like they're on top of things.
Yeah.
Rounding out signings today, a little bit of an underrated signing. Good old resident Colts fan for me, Dan Barnes, was upset that Colts couldn't keep Autry for 3 years, $21.5 million, which I don't think is bad, given that Tennessee does need the run support help. That defensive line still developing with Jeffrey Simmons kind of trying to find his way after being all hyped up and everything and having that drop. But I think those two in the middle would be fantastic. Anybody else have anything to add on Autry? And then also Kendall Lamb coming over from Cleveland, who really filled in well when asked to go in for injuries.
I think Autry's a better signing at the money they gave him than Bud Dupree was. I like Danico Autry a lot.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's a really good, like I said, it's not going to be talked about because, again, it's just your defensive lineman that's not a big star or anything like that. He's not an Aaron Donald. But as far as run support, I think I saw he had like 86 tackles, something crazy like that. Might have been somebody else. There's too many signings today to get everything mixed up. But anybody have anything to add as we get ready to round this out here? Again, I said we were going to be going.
I will say, as we get into tomorrow and probably throughout the night, do keep an eye on Curtis Samuel. He may garner more attention tomorrow as teams are starting to really get a feel for the receiver market. I think that's what Samuel's doing right now, just getting a feel for what the market's like. And, there's always a possibility he could end up being back in Carolina and making that team a very dangerous team offensively with that trio of Anderson, Moore, and Samuel. Adding McCaffrey and
real quick, Jared. Trey Hendrickson,
4-year deal, $60 million.
15 per wow.
Jesus Christ!
Everyone says Mike Brown's cheap, but he'll pay Trey Hendrickson.
Here's why. So it was 3 years, $30 million. Guaranteed for Shaq Lawson. It's 4 years, $32 million guaranteed for Hendrickson. So it's the average annual $2 million less.
Yeah,
just re-signed Lawson.
That's insane.
They need to get the offensive line fixed. I can give shit less what they do on defense.
I think that they already have a better version of him on roster in Sam Hubbard.
I was going to say, that's kind of redundant because they're almost the same player.
They're
Trey
the exact same
Hendrickson wears
guy.
long sleeves, guys, and doesn't use gloves. So it's obviously something different for the team.
Oh, boy.
Different.
Well,
see,
and here's
Nick
the thing.
has long sleeves.
Hendrickson isn't
I get it.
player. Hendrickson's not that bad of a player. But
No, I like
way
Hendrickson.
Yeah.
he was lost, yikes. That's way too much. Probably 40 million.
Yeah,
That would have been better.
I was thinking he'd get less than that to be a Brown. So that explains why a lot of teams were, and obviously why New Orleans
wanna mention a couple other names to keep an eye on over the next few days.
Yeah, go ahead. That's what we were doing before we got distracted.
I would like to mention Richard Sherman and Patrick Peterson. I mentioned them both. I tweeted out earlier today, or I've tweeted out over the last few days. They could be potential fits for the Carolina Panthers to help grow and help with the development of the young corners on Carolina's roster. But they could also be good fits elsewhere. Sherman and Patrick Peterson, they're both still good players. They're not the elite players they once were, but they can still provide great play on the back end of any secondary in the NFL, to be honest with you. I think I like, and I mentioned this before, I like the fits of Peterson and Sherman in Carolina. But also, if they want to go to somewhere like, gosh, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Any teams that really need a corner.
Dallas.
Think of it.
Dallas and the Jets have been tied to both
yes.
Peterson and Sherman. So Sherman to the Jets would be hilarious because of the Darrelle Revis thing.
Yes. But
that would be good.
Dallas would be a good fit for Pat Pete and Richard Sherman for sure. So shout out to you, Austin. Hope you get your corners. Hope you get your defense right.
Really hope you sign someone.
Just sign someone, for God's sakes.
That's not a long snapper. We had a perfectly good long snapper. It's
but he wasn't paid big money.
Imagine having a good long snapper.
Did we talk about the 49ers, guys? Because I don't have them marked down.
I think we skipped teams that didn't sign anyone, though.
Yeah.
49ers did, though. They signed Samson Ebukam and re-signed Jason Verrett.
Oh.
Well, why didn't you speak up earlier, Austin?
Because I lost track of the alphabetical. I figured you had them still. It's fine.
Passing the buck. I'm
Kevin
the one passing the buck
signing a 2-year deal worth up to $8 million to the Houston Texans.
Yeah, another Houston Texans signing.
Texans signing who? Sorry, I missed the name.
Well, that was
I actually don't hate that signing.
Someone said he was one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. I think that was Tom Policio. I think that's his name.
Tom Pelissero.
Yeah,
Camus Grugier.
Minnesota's own Tom Pelissero.
Who Nick. I always confuse with Connor Rogers side by side.
That's fair. Both have excellent hair. Nick, is there anybody for anybody on any team, anything you're hoping to see go down the next couple of days after Jared covered corners and receivers there?
I'm gonna play Homer here for a little bit.
That's fine.
I don't know. See who's left. I'd like to see Baltimore at least try to make a run at Kenny Golladay, even though I know it's a snowball's chance in hell given their cap situation. I mean, if I'd accept like a veteran like pass rusher like Justin Houston, I feel like he could fit.
That wouldn't be bad.
I quite enjoy that. Melvin Ingram, I'd say, what the hell, but we could push for him too. Outside that, I'm really excited to see where Juju goes. I feel like, he's kind of like not being talked about quite as much in the free agent pool right now. But I think like where he goes is going to be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, Juju and Kenny Galladay and honestly Curtis Samuel, like Jared talked about. I'm excited to see where. I think tonight's going to be when they've brewed on deals all day and they're going to be like, okay, I'm kind of itching to do something here. Austin's eating, I'm guessing, because he got his Grubhub ordered or whatever he got ordered. Finally came in.
Yes,
Mike, in the Great White North, who are you waiting for to sign?
I mentioned Kenny. We've mentioned Kenny Galladay. I think that someone's going to probably. I think I mentioned yesterday, $19-20 million. If Nelson Aguilar is getting 13, he'll get 20. I think Juju. I think realistically with him, you're looking at Jacksonville or return to New York. Which if New York with the Jets are able to get him and Corey Davis, that would just kind of be unfair, but I'm here for it. Trying to see if there's any other key free agents that are out there. Trent Williams. We talked about offensive line contracts. Trent Williams would be a good one.
Yeah, there's two that I was going to talk about.
Willie Coker, Tyler Browning, boss man. suggesting Malik Hooker to Dallas. I don't hate it.
Technically, he said to Dallas, which I don't know.
Hooker to Carolina. I wouldn't hate it. On the vet men, hashtag vet men. Shout out to Josh Klein of the Riot Report.
Browning's trying to direct the show, and he's not a part of it.
I think with Malik Hooker, he's going to go to Jacksonville. They're going to pull this. Everyone that played under Urban Meyer is going to sign with Jacksonville.
I would not be surprised.
It's just going to be annoying. It's just going to be annoying because they're going to be a team that just doesn't make any sense.
Well, don't they need a free safety anyway?
Yeah, they do. They need a lot. They're bad. Yeah. Bad teams need a lot of players.
I don't know. I hope for the best for Malik Hooker. He and I share a birthday, just different year. So I only like him based on that. I want to make that public knowledge.
Austin, since you were opening up your bag of chips, who are you excited about for the next day? Which was it a bag of chips or was it just a bag of food?
A bag of food, and I'm really interested to see where these wide receivers go because apparently there's just been a stalemate on all of the big names because they're trying to wait to see who cracks first. But
I'm still watching Nelson Aguilar.
Yes, of course. I'm still trying to see something I'm still trying to keep an eye on Dalvin Tomlinson because he's still the guy I want in Dallas. And there's been nothing with him. It was I think there was one rumor saying Jacksonville, and then they signed Roy Robertson Harris.
Is he going to be the big signing that Houston pulls off? I just have a feeling.
God, that'd be hilarious.
I think he's either going to re-sign with the Giants.
They have no cap space. They got $3 million.
The cap is a lie.
I know it's a lie, but still, they have no money, and they just put a crap load of money towards Leonard Williams at the same position.
Dallas is going to sign Geno Atkins 3 weeks into free agency.
That wouldn't be bad. Oh, excuse me.
It's what's going to happen. I said that way back when they announced that they were releasing him. I feel like that's definitely something that's going to happen.
That's a Cowboys move.
Curtis Samuel's the big name I want to see fall because the fit's going to be everything for him. I think he's going to be an exciting fit somewhere.
I think if he's not going to go to New England anymore, like I heard, I think the next best fit, and Jared, you may have said but I was listening to something else in my house. I think Washington opposite McLaurin with Scott Turner would be perfect.
As far Turner.
Exactly. Yeah, Ron Rivera too.
Duo McLaurin and Samuel.
Oh, yeah. The offense would be fantastic, even if you're forced to get passes from Tyler Heineke. Two guys I'm interested to see, three, because we already talked about one, Trent Williams. I'm interested to see what happens with this tackle class, because you still have Villanueva, who's out there, who I think is very serviceable. You have Mitchell Schwartz, who's the best right tackle, one of the best right tackles in the league, who was a cap casualty in Kansas City. And then opposite, former first-round pick in Kansas City, Eric Fisher's nothing great, but obviously being a former first-round pick, you're probably going to get a little bit of money. And also, too, I think he could still be a serviceable starter. I think Indianapolis would be smart to sign one of those four. But like we talked about, too, Indianapolis and Chris Ballard, he drafts star players normally or trades for him. As he did with Buckner last year. And he saw how that went. Oh, Browning, I just saw that message. It's 3 minutes old. But I think the offensive tackle class is what the receivers are going to be the show, and then the offensive tackle class is going to be what the dough is for these teams coming up.
I want to see a trade. I want to see a quarterback get traded, one of the big ones.
Yes.
I want to see Russ get traded so Ben can have a meltdown.
That's going to be the big trade. Watch.
That's true.
It won't be Deshaun, so it's going to be Russ.
Well, that'll be it then for tonight. We went almost 9 minutes over, and my wife didn't even yell at me once. So another successful show here.
Shout out, Lex.
You're live. You're still live, Harbs.
I am. I make it through another day. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. We're going to do this same time, 9:30 probably. Hopefully then we have a trade. More big signings we'll talk about through the day. Nothing that happened today we'll talk about tomorrow because it's going to be a clean slate. You can always come back to this, which will be on the show in the free agency playlist. So then until tomorrow, we'll see everybody then.
Adios, folks.